There's still some really solid free agents out there and even a new one, but they won't be available for long. Teams are going to start scooping them up due to injuries and need as we approach week 5. Here are the best available and where they may land. A brand new free agent and a good one. CJ Gardner-Johnson, shockingly released by the Houston Texans, probably due to him being a character, to say the least, and the Texans being 0-3. Probably just wasn't the best place for him, wasn't the best for the Texans, so they moved on from him. Likely to end up with a contender and a contending staff that would put up with them. Not everyone's going to put up with them. We know it worked out with the Eagles. That makes a lot. They could use him. It makes a lot of sense. That's kind of where everyone's saying he'll go. At the same time, they traded him away. Why did they trade him away? Did they not want him anymore? Did they not want his attitude? Is he pissed off at the Eagles for them once again moving on from him? So some questions there. The Chiefs are a good landing spot, very serious landing spot. Their defense trying to get back on track. Remember, they moved on from Justin Reed. He signed with the Saints in free agency, and they're going to be a little banged up and a little thin in terms of the depth at the safety position. So CJ Gardner-Johnson could definitely help that defense out, and I feel like that's a staff that in a front office that just kind of welcomes almost anyone. I know they traded Tyreek Hill, but that was more so because he wanted a boatload of money, and the Chiefs felt like, hey, we're gonna pay Mahomes, Kelsey, Chris Jones, and we can build the rest. So I think they'd be open to adding C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So that's definitely a team to watch. The Bucs like using several safeties on game day. I know Izien was a little banged up after last game, so they could look to add another one. Would Todd Bowles put C.J. Gardner-Johnson? That'll be the question there. In the Commanders, Will Harris went down. They did bring in Savage, but definitely could use some more help. They've had some guys in that secondary that have gotten beat up at the cornerback position, which he could play as well. I don't see him lining up at outside corner, though, but if certain guys get beat up, you can move inside corners to outside. You can have him play in the slot, so it's definitely a possibility for a contending team here. So, and of course, he can land with other teams, but these are the 4 that really stood out to me. Zach Moss just still hanging out there, a really solid running back. Now the question is he healthy enough to play? I'd imagine he is, but that's what teams will have to find out. But an experienced, solid running back, and there are some teams that are in need of a back, maybe more now than they were a week ago or two. And the Chargers are one of them. Najee Harris goes down for the year. They love Amari in Hampton. He's going to continue to get better and better, but they like having that 1-2 punch. It's a really good fit in that Greg Roman running scheme and how much they want to run the ball and split the back. So I think Zach Moss would fit in pretty well there. Cardinals lost James Conner to an injury, so they need more of a physical back to pair with Trey Benson. Zach Moss could be that guy. I really like those two teams. In terms of scheme, I think he fit a little bit better with the Chargers, but the Cardinals badly need a running back right now as well. I'd watch out for those two teams. Steelers could be kind of a wild card team here because they're underperforming at the position. The only one they really could trust right now is Jaylen Warren, and he's not an every down. He's definitely not a bruiser, physical type back. Gainwell, a little underwhelming. I guess Caleb Johnson's underwhelming. I wish they would try him, use him a little bit more, but if they're not, they could use it back. Kind of bring up Bears when we talk running backs, but they just kind of shown time and time again they feel like they're set. I like the Chargers and Cardinals for Zach Moss. If he is proven to be healthy for those teams, if he comes in, takes a physical, we'll see. Christian Wilkins, a star defensive tackle, if he is healthy. And that's the question. There's a couple questions. Is he fully healthy? Can he play right now? He believes he can play. And then what went on in the locker room, that situation with the Raiders, will it be a distraction? I don't think it could be that much of a distraction for a new team. Such a premium position, someone that is just too good to let sit out there, worth a shot to bring him in and help your team contend even more. So I think eventually, as long as teams think he can play in some way, even if it's limited, a contender will scoop him up. But I look at the Baltimore Ravens. Madubuike is a little banged up right now, and of course, he'll be back at some point, and they have other defensive tackles. They're typically good at developing, coaching those young guys. But the Ravens, a reason their defense is typically so good is they usually, almost always, stop the run at a very, very, very high level, and right now, they are not doing that. Now, I think without adding Wilkins, I think it'll get better over time, but they could use that guy in there to help them right now due to injuries and just due to the unit underperforming. Remember, Michael Pierce retired in the offseason as well, so that makes a lot of sense. Just would Harbaugh bring in a guy like this that maybe had a question mark in the locker room? Will it bring down the team morale? I don't think it would, but we'll see. And the Eagles are always looking to get better. They're never afraid to make a move to get better. They're not as deep at that position, across the defensive line, the interior defensive line, as they were last year. And they don't really feel quite the same on defense yet. I'm sure they'll get there, but adding a piece like this could get them there, very quickly, and it can help them go for a Super Bowl again. So I wouldn't put it past the Eagles to go for this. Buccaneers, they lost Kalijah Kancey. Very likely for the year, if they get in the playoffs or a certain spot in the playoffs, he could be back. But it's such a position that Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers value so much. They really value stopping the run, getting interior pressure. It's a big reason if the Buccaneers defense is ever good, it starts with that right there. They could still do that without Kancey, without adding Wilkins, but it's a position they take very seriously. And the 49ers, they're playing outstanding on defense right now. On paper, the interior defensive line doesn't look that great, even though it's performing better. They could look to add someone, Nick Bosa, different position. He plays off the edge, but he's out for the year. They may need all the help they can get, with getting after the quarterback to try to replace Nick Bosa, even if it's a different position. So I could see them being interested, maybe more so the other teams. And I put the Bears up there. If they start winning games and start realizing, because they're fresh off beating the Cowboys, and if they start realizing, hey, we can compete, we could try to sneak in the playoffs. I think the number one position of, even though they're banged up at corner and in other spots, number one position of need to me is defensive tackle. Grady Jarrett, just not the player he used to be. Dexter should be more of a rotational guy. Billings doesn't even feel like he's the player before his injury last year, and they don't use him a ton right now. They're really struggling to stop the run and get interior pressure, so they could look to add Wilkins if they start winning and going, hey, we might be some type of contender, maybe not a Super Bowl contender yet, so let's go get this guy. Several teams could use defensive tackles. There's several teams with injuries right now. These are the teams that have really stood out for Christian Wilkins if he's good to play anytime soon. Tyler Boyd is just too damn good of a slot receiver to be available right now, to still be available. Maybe he's asking for too much money. I think signing with the Titans last year kind of hurt him because it kind of looked like he declined a little bit. Not actually the case. The quarterback play was just brutal, so it was just unlucky for Tyler Boyd. I think he really could help a team right now. Somebody will eventually sign him if he's ready to play, if he feels like signing with that team or feels like playing. Maybe that's the case as well. I look at the Commanders. Scary Terry, a little beat up. I don't know how much time he's going to miss. Maybe it's a couple weeks. Maybe it's a little bit more than that. They have Debo. He looks good. He's not a do-it-all type receiver, run routes down. He can run routes downfield, but you want to use him in different ways, obviously. And they have other guys that can play, but I feel like they could really use Tyler Boyd, and that would just make their offense that much better. Remember, in the offseason, they were all in on the offense, all about let's make it as good as we possibly can get. Offensive line, receivers, we'll add more running backs. So I don't see why not. The Jets are pretty brutal at the position. That's Garrett Wilson, and that's about it. And he's got to carry everyone. The pass game is, again, really brutal outside of week one, so they need some more help. Would Boyd be opening to join the Jets right now? We'll see, but they definitely could use the help. The Niners constantly getting banged up. Jawan Jennings has been banged up. Even Pearsall popped up in the injury report, even though it seems like he's good to go. Brandon Ayuk, I recently heard he's not that close to joining the team, on game day, which is not ideal. And these guys, I know they got Robinson coming back, but these guys are just constantly in and out of the injury report. So adding another guy could really help them. I know they have a long list of receivers technically on the roster. So maybe those other two teams are more likely. The Jags, I'm not going to sit here and say the Jags are likely to sign him. I would like for them to sign him. I don't know what they're doing with Travis Hunter right now. He actually might look better as a corner than a receiver. They're trying to get him going in the slot. I don't see why he can't get going in the slot. He's that talented. So maybe he eventually does. But in Liam Cohen's offense with that Buccaneers background, it's receivers very valuable to that offense, right? Not just having good starters, but having the deep rotation. They have other guys like De'Ami Brown that can play on top of their star, Brian Thomas Jr. They have Parker Washington, but they could get better here, and just having another really solid, experienced, smart slot receiver, which, again, has dominated Liam Cohen's offense. Like Chris Godwin looked like the best slot receiver in football at times last year. I thought that made sense. I'm not really counting on them to do it. I just thought it made a lot of sense there for Tyler Boyd, but a good receiver that could be taken off the market at any given time. Stephon Gilmore once was the best corner in football, no longer the case, but still a very solid, experienced, intelligent corner. Maybe more so prefer him in a zone coverage defense these days, just because when these guys get older, they're less likely to be able to or want to chase around these speedy receivers in man coverage, but he could help really anybody out. But a lot of teams missing corners due to injuries. Cardinals, one of them. They lost Sean Murphy-Bunting before the season started, They still had some good depth, some rookies. Will Johnson a little banged up right now. He'll be back, but Garrett Williams is on IR, and he'll be back as well. So maybe they feel like they can wait it out. But I think Gilmore could really help them right now. It can't hurt because they're a defense that is very capable of being easily a top 10, maybe better defense. They want to make sure that's the case. The Eagles, they're always looking. We got to keep mentioning the Eagles. They're always looking to add players, get better. They definitely could use another outside corner. Feels like they're lacking at the spot opposite of the side of the field of Quinyon Mitchell, who's a very solid young corner. So they could look to add Gilmore. The Rams, obviously with Witherspoon a little banged up, they're already thin at corner. They're a little hesitant to make moves, especially with these veterans at that position. So that'd be the only reason I say the Rams don't. But it would make sense. They're thin at the position right now. And the Cowboys been linked to Gilmore, bringing him back. They've been really struggling on defense, especially with the pass defense, so they could look to add a corner like Stephon Gilmore. Talk about him going back to the Vikings at one point. They're playing so well. Their corners look pretty good. They're not extremely deep, so maybe, but is he going to go somewhere to be a depth piece? Probably not. It feels like not too long ago, Justin Simmons was an elite safety in this league, but he did show signs of decline last year with the Falcons. But that might be a Falcons defense situation, at least from last year. I'm not saying he's going to get back on track to being elite, really nowhere close. But the Falcons were trying to use 2 true single-eye free safeties last year, and it just didn't work out for Simmons. So that's probably why he's still available. I still think with the right defense, the right scheme, he really could help a team. I look at the Baltimore Ravens. I would love that for the Ravens. Ar'Darius Washington went down before the season started. They're really missing him. They did draft Malachi Starks. He still has upside. He could get better. And I think he'll be a good player. Right now, there's a lot of hiccups in there. They can and on top of that, the Ravens just love having depth, rotation, different options. They have that at corner. They need it at safety. They need a true single high free safety. I think Justin Simmons could be that guy. So I really watch for the Ravens. Just in my mind, it makes a lot of sense. If they had Washington, if he was healthy, then that wouldn't be the case. But and the Chiefs, they're not super deep back there. In terms of downfield coverage at the safety position. And Brian Cook got a little banged up. Sounds like he's going to be good to go, but got a little banged up last week. So another team I look at, but I really like that Ravens fit. So there you have it. There's more free agents available than just this, but these are the guys that really, really could help a team. And I feel like as we get closer, as we get further in the year here, further in the season, which we already are, teams that know they need something to be better, to contend, to Super Bowl contend, they're going to jump on it. And there's so many injuries right now, more and more injuries every single week. There's only going to be more. So teams are going to start going, all right, if we want this guy, we got to get him now because another team might swoop in because of an injury. So it's going to start happening. And even more action when we get to that trade deadline. We'll have you covered for that. But we have you covered all week long, every single week with different picks, score predictions, bets, power rankings, and more. So join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.